Hey everybody, I'm Garrett Fuller with MMORPG. I'm with Maria Aliprando. She is, what's your job again?
I'm a gameplay designer at ZenMax, and I do creature combat.
Creature combat. So Nick, who was here earlier, Maria gets to beat up on him all the time, which I think she really likes to do. So we were talking a little bit, Nick and I talked a little bit about kind of the open progression system you guys now have in the game, and then how do you counter that with the monsters? And you're really the person to answer that question. So when you guys are designing monster combat, what's the first thing you look at in terms of how you're building out what the players are going to face?
So obviously the first thing we look at is what can the players do, and since our game is so PvP centered towards the end of the game, we really think about how can we make the monsters act like players? How can we make sure that the game that you're playing at the end of the game is the same game that you're playing the whole time? And you can go to PvP when you're level 10 and you want to level up in there, that's just fine. But the game that you're playing while you're fighting the monsters should be the same environment as when you go into PvP. So when you see a monster do a build of attack and you block it, you can also block a build of attack from a player. When you see a monster do an ability that you could bash and interrupt them and stagger them and make them go off balance, you do the same thing to a player. So we don't want to change the rules. And then from there, we know that every player can block, every player can sprint, every player can crouch, every player can dodge. So we can say, well, you know what, we just can't make this ability because none of the sorcerers will be able to cope with it, or none of the warriors will. No, we go, everybody has the same tools available to them to be able to handle these monsters, and it's really up to the player as to how they want to. If they want to dodge, great. If they want to do a bolt escape and disorient the monster as they teleport through them, great. If they want to stone fist and knock them down, great. So it really comes down to making sure that the monsters are able to play off what the players can do, and making sure that the players recognize those behaviors and bring it into the Alliance War if they so choose to go there.
Cool. I think it's funny. Just in today alone, we played in Hammerfell, and we saw the wolves, pirates. We saw the dwarven automaton spiders and spheres and stuff running around. Like when you go into it, what type of a monster? Like, what's your favorite type? Because I mean, let's face it, Elder Scrolls serves up a whole plate of them. So
obviously, we go back, and if it's a lore monster, for example, any of the Dwemer constructs like those, we go back to the previous games and we say, what are players familiar with, and then how can we take that and adapt it to our game, make it original, make it unique, and make it something new without going off the trail of what this thing actually is. Or if it's a wolf, we say, what do wolves actually do? We don't want to make this wolf like some special thing that you wouldn't recognize. Like, wolves travel in packs, they attack me in packs, they'll surround me, they'll do different things depending on how many wolves are around me. Of course, that makes sense, they're wolves. So I would say that Dwemer are one of my favorite monsters to design for, because there's so many options for them. And they're not like any other creature. They don't live by the same rules as any other creation in the lore. So, for example, the spheres. So they can attack at range, and they can attack at melee. And they may decide at any point during combat, they go, you know what, this whole range thing's not really working out for me. I'm going to go into melee, I'm going to use my sword arm. Or they might say, you know what, I'm kind of low on health, I'm going to retreat, and I'm going to start using ranged attacks. And if there's two of them nearby, one of them will say, you know what, I'll go melee, you go range. And if I go low on health, we'll swap because we're intelligent. So those were some of the really most exciting ones to do. The spiders can go off and create an area of like a static field, which
we saw that.
Which can charge up the other Dwemer. So it may not be really threatening when a spider is charging up another spider, but if a spider charges up a centurion, now you're in real trouble. And so like, building on those behaviors and building them up as we start introducing more and more and also difficult monsters is really exciting. Another really exciting one to work on is if you check out our website, we have a concept of a Daedric Titan, which is one of our
I think everybody saw that.
Everybody was like, hey, what was that? So that's a brand new monster we have. It's new to the lore. It's a Daedric Titan, which is a servant of Moloch Ball. Titans are in charge of protecting all of the souls that Moloch Ball has stolen that are stored in Cold Harbor. So they're really the gatekeepers to retrieving anything in Cold Harbor. and they're really fun to make. We have them as kind of like a pick your poison fight. So depending on how you engage with them, they might change their tactics.
Right.
So they'll say, this guy blocked my attack, I'm not going to do that. This guy interrupted me, well, I'm going to do something else instead. So it really comes down to not just recognizing what the monster's doing, but reacting to them when they decide to do something totally different. They're like, you know what, I'm changing my tactics on the fly. Let's do something else. Or we're in a group. Let's work together, just as the players would work together in their own group.
Right. Now, for something like the Daedric Titan, I mean, like I said, you saw the concept art for it,
Yeah.
and nobody talked about it today, and now you brought it up, and that's really all I want to talk about. Is that the type of thing? The Titan, you get the sense of this massive demon,
Yes.
and from the artwork, I know it looks huge. Is that the type of thing where that is a group fight, or is that something you can actually
So it
solo?
would. So. It really depends on the scenario that the base peppers and content decide to put you in. So if there's just a Titan by himself in the world, a skilled player could defeat it, making sure they're using potions, making sure that they have spec'd out their character to adapt to the situations that the Titan's going to give them. You can't just walk up to it and just start swinging your sword, you know, and going at it.
Right.
You know, but it is an epic fight. Whereas most of our monsters, you fight them in pulls and they work together, and all of these different mechanics can happen, and factional synergies can happen. A Titan is just a Titan.
Yeah.
He is just a straight-on fight.
Right.
So they are designed to be defeated by a single player, but there are certainly situations where having somebody around would certainly help. So yeah, that was a really exciting fight to be able to present to people, and I hope people get to see it once we start going into beta.
I know, that's awesome. Nick is laughing over there in the corner. He's cracking up at that. So the other thing that everybody who sat down, I asked him about, and everybody gave their answers, and I said we have to do this. You have one of the coolest PvP builds that I heard. Because you don't have an out policy. Your policy is you're dead. My
exit policy is when everybody is dead, I may move on to the next subject.
There you go. See, that's hardcore. But everybody's talked about how the progression systems really lent themselves now to the internal. Wheeler was saying the internal AVA testing. Everybody talks about the specs that they've built, and yours was hysterical when I heard you talking about it. I was like, "How do you do that?" And I'm trying to play, and everybody was going on. So tell everyone a little bit about that.
It's a pretty good one, I think, and people don't expect it when they look at you. But what I do is I go sorcerer, and the sorcerer is really good at damage output or doing area denials and things like that, or altering their form with, for example, what I use bound armor, which will summon a set of Daedric armor on yourself, and then there's another ability called lightning form, which will turn you into a conduit of lightning and will also shock everybody around you. It also has a little bit of mitigation, so with your bound armor and your lightning form, you can take hits pretty well as a sorcerer. And then I went for armor. I went a little bit heavy armor and a little bit medium armor to give myself both the protection of the heavy armor as well as the mobility of the medium armor, because I went for a heavy stamina build, which allows me to roll dodge very often, block a lot of attacks, sneak around a lot, and things like that. Then I went one-handed and shield, which gives me a heavy charge, a shield charge, which allows you to rush in and knock somebody down. You also get a shield bash, which is a really heavy shield attack, as well as puncture, which takes down the enemy's armor, as well as dealing a little bit of damage. So my combo ends up as I'll bound armor, lightning form, charge you, and I'm just wailing on you, and you can kill me, but not before I make your life miserable.
Nick's laughing again. See, he's very proud over there. See what happens? See, that's the funny part. Is it's those types of conversations. Even Matt was sitting here. You can see him get excited. He's like, "Oh man, my build, the sorcerer, and he hit the 2 weapons." But it's great. I mean, I think that's really the core of the progression system. Now you're starting to see it internally. I can't wait for the guys to come to PAX East and play it and see what it's like to really start to build those out.
It's really going to be exciting to get a lot of people in there. We do huge company play tests where it'll be massive fights in the middle of nowhere, and sure, taking keeps is really great, knocking down walls is awesome, but when you catch somebody in the middle of the woods and go, here we go, this is you're gonna remember this moment.
I know, that's awesome. So cool. Well, thanks so much, Maria, for
Thank
taking
you
time
so
to talk to
much.
us. I know everybody's looking forward to the game. Everybody said the word beta, so we have to say it in this interview too. But thanks to Maria for joining us, and we'll see you guys at PAX East. Elder Scrolls Online is coming really soon. Thanks again.
Thanks.